On today's episode of the Mark Titus Show, a new AP poll is here for the first AP poll, the preseason AP poll, and the Kansas Jayhawks are your number one team in the country. This might sound familiar. Last year at this time, the Kansas Jayhawks were the number one team in the country. They ended up getting, I believe, a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament. It was not a season that went particularly well for Kansas. A lot of familiar faces are back. They have backfilled some of the guys they lost, though, so it's not exactly the same team. How is this season going to look for Kansas? We don't know. All we know is that last year Hunter Dickinson was the best player on the number one team in the country, and he said, I love it. I love it. Bring it on. We're the number one team. I want everyone to know. And then the season didn't go well, so we'll see how it goes for Kansas. Alabama is second. I think a lot of the Bama fans thought that they might be the number one team in the country. Maybe they will be by season's end. UConn comes in at third, the two-time defending champions who just played Rhode Island in an exhibition. I don't need to read the whole poll to you, but I think that's probably what I expected, to be completely honest. I think Kansas won. It makes sense for a lot of reasons. I'll get into it in the show. Jim Root's joining me. Our old friend Jim Root from Three Men Weave is going to join me to break it all down. But we're basically going to overreact to the AP preseason poll. KenPom put a poll out as well, which isn't really a poll, I guess. It's a rankings. It's a KenPom algorithm. Evan Miyakawa, he already did that like a couple weeks ago. He put out his preseason rankings. Dan Hurley's mad at all of them because UConn is not number one, and I don't know. I find it fascinating. So we'll talk about that a little bit. Speaking of Dan Hurley, they did play Rhode Island. North Carolina played Memphis in a game that I watched a little bit of. Playoff baseball's on, and I'm flipping over to exhibition college basketball games. It's the blood's starting to flow a little bit. I'm getting pretty excited about this season. So Jim and I will. I don't know. We'll just bullshit on the AP top 25. The Carolina Tar Heels looking pretty good against Memphis. I'm getting excited about them as well. A lot of stuff to get to. We'll do our best to touch on all sorts of things in the AP poll and around the country and all that stuff coming up. All right, Jim Root is here. It's been a while since you've been in here. Welcome back.
It's exciting to be back. There's more Earnhardt gear every time I show up.
Dude, I don't know what's going on. It's becoming a problem. I'm a pretty neat guy. I don't like clutter, and I'm making one exception in my life, and it's Dale Earnhardt memorabilia. So it's swallowing this desk alive, but at the same time, it's kind of cool, and people are just sending me shit. I'm not buying any of this. So
that's not a bad deal.
It's not a bad deal at all. Yeah. So all right, you're here. College basketball is right around the corner. We had games last night. I was watching. Was UConn Rhode Island? What channel is that on?
That was on UConn Plus, which I didn't
that's why
know
I wasn't
existed.
watching.
Some sort of streaming service. It was free on there, but yeah, UConn. They apparently got their own deal now.
I want to start with UConn because they are the two-time defending national champions. They are expected to be a very good team. Ranked third in the AP preseason poll. I think I said last week and the week before, and you can stop me if I'm wrong. One of the things I love about having you here, Jim, is that this is the one opportunity that I just get to turn my brain off and let you. You're the guy that knows all the shit.
Great.
Yeah,
that's
and
pressure.
I just get to ask you the questions and be a fucking dumbass like I am. But I think UConn, to me, is the one team that is head and shoulders better than everybody else in their conference in terms of the power conference teams. What do you think about that? What do you think about that statement? Let's chew on that for a second. I think, to me, like Kansas, if they're the class of the Big 12, I think Houston's right behind them. Baylor's up there. There are enough. Arizona's in the mix. It's not completely obvious that it can.
No one in the Big Ten is good.
No one in the Big Ten is good, so there's no one team that's head and shoulders.
I had half a thought of like, all right, who's the best Pac-12 team? And I was like,
that's right.
Got to delete that thought process from my head. And then, Duke
ACC's Duke. Duke might be, but Carolina not so fast.
And Duke always loses some weird road games because they're freshmen, and then you're like, oh wait, they almost never win the regular season.
They're picked to win the regular season every preseason. They almost never do. Bama and the SEC maybe, but I think the SEC is gonna be really good.
So I think that's a closer race too. UConn. Watching the Rhode Island game, and it's the smartest thing you can do is watch these preseason games when they're playing with rotations and take a strong take away from it and project it onto the rest of the season. But the one thing that did feel different, and this isn't going to stun people, it's not going to pull your pants down or anything, but they didn't have a 7'2" guy in the middle. And it makes it a little easier for the other team to score inside. Rhode Island has a guy from Western Michigan that had like 10 in the first half, was kind of dominating the paint, got Samson Johnson in foul trouble, which will happen probably every game. And it was like, oh yeah, UConn's not immortal this year. They were still awesome. They ran away with it in the second half. Their offensive execution is still absurd. They ran a play the first time out, or first like off the tip. McNeely wrapped around 2 different screens, ended up getting like basically an uncontested layup. It's like, oh yeah, they can still do that.
They can still do that, yeah.
Luke Murray can still draw it up.
Clean offense, yeah.
But the defense feels different. It feels like there's, they're not going to rampage through March again.
Yeah.
It's not Klingon waiting at the rim.
And does any part of you in saying that have pause because you're like, they've won the last 2 and they still have a ton of talent? And because Dan Hurley's doing a hell of a job in the preseason of just like, I don't want to say he's not being like overly aggressive. I don't think he's doing anything like out of pocket, but it does seem like he's taking notes of every single person that doesn't have UConn 1, and it puts me in a position where on like the last show he did, I was like, I think UConn's a top 5 team. I'm not sure they're the best team in the country, but I'm really scared to say that. Maybe I'm just scared of Dan Hurley, but it's like I remember being here last year going into the season. It was the same sort of feeling of like, I know UConn is going to be good, but what they're losing is I saw how valuable it was to them, so I'm unsure of it. I just need to see it on the court first. And then we started seeing it on the court, and I was like, okay, now I get it. And I'm worried going into this year, like it's because at some point they're going to fall off and they're not going to win the national championship.
Maybe.
But this team could. This team, this team is in a vacuum. This team could be a national champion. Forget the last 2 years. Like if we went into this season, we'd be like, oh yeah, UConn could win the national championship this year. So, how do you personally do you let that affect things? Like when you think about like the fact that they've won the last 2 and Dan Hurley is a coach who's like, yeah, keep doubting us. We'll keep proving you wrong, all that sort of thing. Or are you like that? Last year was last year. Flush it down. This is a completely new team that we have to look at and evaluate.
I'd love to say I flush it, but it does sit in the mind a little bit that Dan Hurley has probably a bulletin board the size of this entire studio with everyone's face on it that is saying anything.
I swear to God, if my voice is in the national championship, actually, I kind of want that.
Yeah, wait,
that's actually a good thing.
Feels great for you.
That'd be awesome. That would actually be good for me.
So say something right now that will be on.
There's no way UConn is going to win another national championship, Jim.
3 in a row.
3 in a row is crazy. 2 in a row would have been a long time since we've seen it. 3 in a row is virtually unprecedented in the modern era.
Can't imagine. Okay, good. Yeah. Now we've got that. That bite is there for them. UConn tech team. Go ahead and pull that. No, I mean, I've tried to say every year, what's this team going to be good at? What are their flaws? But like with UConn, what they did last year, recycling, they weren't the same team as the year before, but every guy that came in was better than he was previously.
Right.
All the transfers. So you kind of have to expect that with Mahaney and Terrace Reed, who both of them had some ups and downs at their prior stop. And now Mahaney's coming off the bench behind Solo Ball, who looked like incredible. He was the best player on the floor, a guy that was a bit player who never shot while Stefan Castle was injured. Yeah. And now he's potentially their stud as a sophomore. So I as much as I want to harp on, like, I think Klingon was one of the few like super differentiators that they had the last 2 years. They're just going to find another one.
They'll find another one, yeah.
That's what the UConn fans will tell me, and they'll probably be right.
They'll probably be right.
They were right last offseason.
They were very right last offseason.
I think I picked UConn 3rd in the Big East
last year.
Preseason. I think I had them behind Creighton and Marquette just barely. And yeah, thanks to the UConn fans for not bringing it up as much as they could have.
Stefan Castle was the one for me last year that I just didn't. I don't pay as much attention to recruiting as I should have, and I mean, like, you can tell me you're bringing in McDonald's All-Americans or whatever, and I'm like, I need to see what this guy actually looks like before I get excited. And a bunch of UConn people were like, just wait till you see this guy.
But they were very right. Just wait.
I know, that's what's hard.
And yeah,
that's what's hard.
And the one other we don't have to transition immediately, but UNC had 2 5-star freshmen that debuted against Memphis, and they looked bad.
Yeah, if you didn't know who they were, you wouldn't have known that they were the 5 stars. Yeah.
Ian Jackson, Drake Powell just had rough debuts, and that's fine. A lot of freshmen are going to, but that wasn't the case for UConn, and maybe they've earned the benefit of the doubt of like every single guy is just going to be always put in the right spot to succeed, and that makes it hard to be negative on them.
Yeah. What if Luke Murray's still there? I guess he gets a lot of credit for that, because I'm trying to think through like
it's the biggest coup. Every time they win the title, every other coaching search is done, so their assistants don't get plucked. It's like this never-ending cycle.
That's a good point. Yeah, but yeah, like UConn fans after these last 2 years are behaving as though Dan Hurley was hired 2 years ago, and every single NCAA tournament he will ever coach in his life, he will win an NCAA championship. And I'm like, well, there were teams before the last two where it didn't go so well. So what if it is just a Donovan Clingan thing? What if it's just a Luke Murray thing?
Yeah,
what if
he lost to Mark Turgeon in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah,
right? That happened.
It's crazy. It's crazy how granted, back-to-back national titles will change the narrative on a motherfucker for sure. Like that, I'm not confused as to how it happened, but it, I will not be gaslit into believing that Dan Hurley has won a national championship every single time he's coached. At some point, he's not going to win, but I'm also not brave enough to say it's not going to happen this year. I'm not the brave soul that will say that. You mentioned a freshman. I do want to talk about North Carolina in the game last night, but I'm getting ahead of myself because I got excited about this. Quick break to talk about our friends at DraftKings. The roller coaster of an NFL season is moving right along, and it promises to be a month full of tricks, treats, and, of course, touchdowns. In DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, is the number one place to bet touchdowns. Running it in from the one or an 80-yard bomb, we don't care how they score touchdowns. We want to bet on them. And DraftKings heard us and is delivering. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score a touchdown. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Here's a reason for new customers to do a touchdown dance of their own. Bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Score big with DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Titus. That's code Titus for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets. When you bet just $5 only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. This is another topic that's come up with TJ, our Rutgers guy, who is very excited. Was this today, TJ, the Slam magazine cover?
Yeah,
was released today?
And
Dylan Harper and Ace
hype.
Bailey are both on the cover of Slam magazine.
It's pretty fucking cool. I don't know how much cultural relevance Slam magazine still has today, but it's fucking
in the Hitchings house. It still pops off. We've been talking about Rutgers and just kind of what the expectation is for them, but on a broader scale, that like we're at a point in college basketball where a team can bring in two of the top three recruits in the country, and they are picked. Like Blue Ribbon had you guys 15th.
Yeah,
17th?
Ken Pom has us 17th, I think.
In the Big Ten?
Yeah.
You're 25th in the AP poll.
Right.
But you're 25th in the AP poll. But it seems like I don't need to tell you this, Jim, but there used to be a time where if you're a team that brings in two guys like that, you're like, well, shit, a top 10 team at least. And all by all accounts, the people that have been at practice and have watched the growth of Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper through the years, they're like, these guys are unfucking real. And yet they have two of these guys coming into Rutgers, and there are a ton of question marks about how good they might be. Where's your head on all this? Because TJ, the two of us are drinking the Kool-Aid, and we're like, yeah, this is going to be a hell of a year for Rutgers. But then some people are like, no, the years of having great freshmen are long gone. Forget all that. I don't know. I don't know what to make. I don't know how to make sense of what's going on in Piscataway.
Yeah, Rutgers was a team I was higher on as I wrote our Big Ten preview for 3-Man Weed, the stuff we're doing, and I had Rutgers, I think, in the top 7, maybe 6th or 7th, and it's like, yeah, the talent's ridiculous. I think Harper is just fantastic. He's like the kind of the coach's son, but also NBA prospect. Like, it's not really fair to have both of those things going on. Then Bailey's, of course, just kind of an alien, but the role players they put around them make sense. Like, each guy's good at one thing. Yeah. Like Agbole, the big man, can play defense, but he can't catch the basketball. A couple guys can shoot, but they can't play any defense. And it's like, you want a little more versatility from your supporting cast. The freshman thing is also tough right now because there's 24-year-olds. Like, this is the last year of the fifth-year guys. And the past couple of years, freshmen have not performed very well. Like, even highly ranked guys, there's only been a couple that rank super highly, and sometimes it's like Reed Shepard, who is ranked 50th. It's not even a guy that's a top 5 prospect. So it's not a lock that those guys are going to be stars right away, but this is a better class for sure.
Right.
I think everybody would say like the top 6 guys in this class would have been number 1 last year.
Yeah.
So maybe that helps lift Rutgers, and I don't know. I believe in those guys. I think computers are a little lower on them. Humans, I'm hoping, are closer to right. Yeah. I'm a human too that has them higher. But
I'm glad the AP poll got it right, because they need to be in the top 25, because this is the preseason AP poll is very important to me, because I think it's a way to capture the attention of the country. And you're not going to grab everybody's attention when playoff baseball and football are going on. I understand that. But there has to be some sort of announcement that college basketball is back, and you're basically announcing college basketball is back, and these are the teams you should pay attention to. And I think a team that has 2 guys that might be top 5 picks is a team that you need to pay attention to if you're a casual basketball fan. So I love that Rutgers is in the ranking. Yeah, of course, at some point they're going to have to play these games and prove how good they actually are. But when you got Rothstein going to practice saying, he said, what do you say about Ace Bailey? He's like Jabari Smith with handles or something, which was like, I mean,
the expectations are being set really fucking high.
If you have, you could put 4 of me around Jabari Smith with handles, and that's a tournament team at the very least.
Well, you got a corner jumper, Mark. Come on, don't 4 of me might not be the same thing as 4 of you. But yeah, no, it's insane. Like if it's, what do you know, a positive report out of practice.
I know.
Can you believe it? I haven't seen any of those.
I know. But I mean, one thing about me is I will buy the hype on any freshman that's coming in. It's harder to buy hype on guys I've already seen. It's harder to buy hype on like, I don't. If you told me,
we call it the allure of the unknown. It's like the Family Guy clip.
Right.
Like it could even be a boat. It's like, well, you could either have the boat or the mystery box.
Yeah. If you told me that Hunter Dickinson he's moving his feet at a level we've never seen before, and I really think that I would be like, all right, well, let's relax.
Ethan Happ shooting threes.
Ethan Happ shooting threes now. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I'm not. Indiana did that with Trace Jackson Davis, where I'll never forget this as long as I live. Mike Woodson gets hired. And he's like, I'm going to make Trace Jackson Davis a pro, which to his credit, Trace Jackson Davis has turned into a pretty good pro. But I remember that offseason, like every clip coming out of Bloomington is Trace like jab stepping on the perimeter and hitting jump shots, and then he's hitting like baby hooks with his right hand because he only goes left, and that was a criticism against him. It's like, we got to develop that right hand, and every single clip is just like baby right hook, here's a jump shot, baby right hook, here's a jump, and then the very first game he just goes left hand, spin, fake spin, back to the left hook.
You should just stick with that. He's really good at it.
He's the exact same guy, and as it turns out, that guy's really fucking good. So who cares? The Big Ten in general is kind of a mess, but kind of intriguing. I'm on the fence here as well. That my thoughts on the Big Ten are like, I think it's gonna be super fun. I think the race for a regular season Big Ten championship, which I don't even know how much people value anymore because of imbalanced schedules and conference realignment and all that. But
Purdue still values it.
Purdue still values it for sure. Yeah. That race will be intriguing because I do think there are a lot of teams that have a shot at winning it. But I'm also worried that the Big Ten on Selection Sunday could be a league that gets like 10 teams in, and the highest seeded team is like 4. It gets a 4 seed or a 3 seed.
Yeah,
like
there's probably no better encapsulation than like whether you like the Ken Pom rankings or not. They have 15 teams between 11 and 9 and 9 and 11 right now. That like 15 of 18 are within 2 games. That is 100% factual on the projected standings. It is hilarious to look at. Only Rutgers at 8 and 12, Washington at 7 and 13. And then Purdue at 14 and 6. The other 15 are within 2 games. It is a completely comical visual.
Oh my God!
But I think it kind of paints the picture of the Big Ten is just kind of a shrug. It's like a choose your own adventure book, a Rorschach test. Like, what do you think is going to happen here? You can make a case for it, and it's like I can't really push back against it.
I think speaking of the shrug and the unknowns and like the stuff that we don't have much time, we got to get our takes out before the season starts. Is Braden Smith for me is one of those topics, in that Braden Smith, was he first team preseason All-American? Second team. I think he was second team.
I know he was Big Ten Player of the Year.
Big Ten Player of the Year. Sure. I think he was second team AP preseason All-American. But he's considered one of the best players in the country. I'm not here to say he's not one of the best point guards, and what we've seen of him has been incredible. He runs an offense, can hit shots from anywhere, plays under control. I love Braden Smith, but there are naysayers that
there's a butt coming here, boy.
There are butts, a lot of butts with him. How easy is it to look great when Zach Edey's rolling to the basket and swallowing everyone alive and creating space and all that? And I think there is like a group of people, a lot of them are coming out of Bloomington, Indiana, that are saying that Braden Smith is he's an Edey merchant, we'll say. And like, how good is he actually? And where are you with Braden Smith? Like, do you think Purdue is a viable Big Ten threat? And that Braden Smith, all these accolades he's getting, which I think are deserved based on what we've seen, but of course Purdue is going to be a different team. And I think just saying that like in the same way that UConn has been great these last 2 years, Purdue's last 2 years, what if they are just a Zach Edey? Now, I love Matt Painter, and I love the pieces they have, but they're an interesting case because, I'm not exactly sold that they're going to be like top 10 good all season, but also the guys they have coming back off of a Final Four team and the leadership they have. Again, I'm not brave enough to say they're not going to be, and I'm stuck, and I need Jim to make sense of it for me.
Well, the most important thing Braden Smith did this offseason was grow a beard, so he doesn't have the same goatee anymore, which is, I think, good for visuals, just good for vibes around the Purdue program. I'm hesitant to say Purdue is just like an Edey program because Painter's been in the top 25 at Ken Pom 9 straight years,
right?
5 of those in the top 10. So obviously 3 of those seasons were without Edey in the top 10, so he can get it done. I think what's going to make Braden Smith that level, like maybe not second team All-American, but I don't know who else I'm picking for Big Ten Player of the Year besides like maybe Harper or Bailey, is that I think they're going to run a little more. They're going to get out and play a little faster. It's not going to be like we need to make sure Edey is in the post, getting a touch. They can open it up, and they have run a little bit under Painter in the past, but they've just like the last 6 years they've had Haas and Swanigan and Edey and all these giants. So perhaps they get out and run a little bit more. He's the maestro in the open court, making a lot of reads that way. I still think he's a pretty good pick and roll player. He's got that Chris Paul elbow jumper, pull up fadeaway. That's one of his go-tos. I think he's going to have an awesome year. I'm gonna go that way where I feel very good about him first team.
I'm very much a Braden Smith fan, and I want him to be awesome. It's just like the last we saw of him in the national championship. I mean, it was tough. Now you're playing against an incredible basketball team with a ton of athleticism on the perimeter and all that. It's just that's can he be a guy that's like good enough to lead Purdue to another Final Four? Frankly, if that's like what Purdue aspires to be now, is like we've now gotten over that hump. Now let's continue to keep knocking at that door and keep doing that. I don't know. I'm curious. I love the guy though. I love watching him play, and I think Purdue. I think you're right. They're going to get up and down more, and like Miles Colvin and Cam Heidi and
I'm
these
excited
athletes
a little
are
more
going
Heidi.
to it'll be fun to watch.
I like Smith more than Purdue this year. Does that make sense? Like I think he has an awesome year, but I think they take
he's going to get his, but
like
it's
15th to 20th rather than top 5 or 10.
Well, when it becomes like nut cutting time to not have Edey to dump the ball down to, and that's going to be interesting. Like what does a 5-point game with 3.5 minutes left look like for Purdue now? When you don't have a guy who's good at the free throw line and also hard to guard and you can dump it down to and all that sort of thing. I guess the Big Ten is just a total mess.
Who do you like best out of the Big Ten? Are you an Indiana guy, which the Cougars are not? That's more of a.
I think Indiana has the highest ceiling and Purdue has the highest floor to me.
I like that.
I think Purdue is comfortable. If you hold a gun to my head and say that pick a team from the Big Ten that's going to make the tournament, I will say Purdue. I think Purdue is going to comfortably make the NCAA tournament, will not be on the bubble. It's just a matter of like, will they, do we have to take it seriously that they're going to make a deep run or not? Or does this just feel like a second-round loss type team? Indiana, I think if everything goes according to what the talent they have amassed, what they believe, how they believe it could go, I do think Indiana could be like a Final Four team. That's just a very massive if. Because
did you talk about the Woody quote where he just said the word small ball and Indiana like fans
lost
out? Like he mentioned it. The fact that he even mentioned it is like, oh my god.
Yeah. I don't know. Indiana's a big time wait and see team, but they hit the portal and they got their guys, man, and I think they're gonna have a ton of talent. Illinois is a team though that I've been reading the literature on, as I like to say. I've been reading the literature a little bit on the Illini and trying to figure them out.
Yeah, I know Mark Titus show guest Kevin Sweeney was at practice today. Down at Illinois, and he had some very positive things to say.
Positive reports out of practice.
Yeah, it's really again shocking stuff there. A quick Indiana question for you.
Yeah.
And maybe you've discussed this on your show. Would you care at all as an Indiana fan if your team was the one that like, they spent $7 million of NIL for this roster? It's double the other Big Ten teams. Like, why would you care?
Well, I'm an Ohio State alum, and it's happening with our football team. Where every time I turn on College Game Day or any of these other shows, they're just like, and remember, Ohio State $20 million is what they're saying they spent. It's not my money, Jim.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Why should
there's no salary cap to this stuff, and it's not my money. So unless you're one of the donors that's writing like $1 million check for one of these guys, I don't really understand. Because like when Ohio State football lost to Oregon like that, not everybody, but there's like a contingent of Ohio State fans are like, for the money we spent, we deserve. we didn't spend dick, dude. It was like 5 guys like wrote the checks, dude. We didn't spend like I didn't spend anything as an Ohio State fan. So I don't care. I can't, and that's the rules. That's what the game is now. So I don't really understand how that's like a criticism of.
I'm totally with you.
Right?
If your team is spending it, if your basketball team decides to spend $15 million on a team, cheer for them anyway. Like, who cares? That's awesome.
Now,
that's
if you're someone like Dave Portnoy here, like a couple weeks ago said he'll spend $3 million to get Michigan a quarterback if that's what it takes, and Michigan's quarterback ends up stinking, I do think that that's like a position where you can be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What the fuck? You know, like, you get upset about the money. If that's you, if you're like the guy, like I paid this guy $3 million and he can't.
Yeah, should Michigan fans get mad at the quarterback? Or, man, Dave for his decision. Why'd you pick that guy for $3 million?
But yeah, that's the terms of engagement now. So I don't think it's a problem at all. North Carolina played last night. I want to make sure we talk about North Carolina because this is like the one. Frankly, this is like the one game that I've watched so far in the early. I tried to watch a little bit of the Michigan State exhibition, and I was like, yeah,
I don't think that was one you could learn a lot from.
It was NFL Sunday, and I was like, I'll just throw it back to the NFL. But I was watching Carolina Memphis, and the overreactions are Seth Trimble's winning Player of the Year, and in every conference and every
yes, of course,
he's my Big Ten Player of the Year, my ACC National Player of the Year. But I think with no R.J. Davis, like I do think that was actually a pretty. If I was a Carolina fan, I'd be pretty fired up about the Cadeau Jalen Washington pick and roll was incredible. Seth Trimble, who's been a pretty good defender from what I've seen from his career, like he was scoring at will against a decent Memphis team. I never know what to make of Memphis teams because they have names and they have talent, but it's also like. The story feels familiar with Penny, and it's October exhibition game. It was sloppy basketball. We know all that, but still, I don't think I want to overreact in a bad way to these exhibitions, but I do think if you're a Carolina fan after what you saw without your best player, who might be the best player in the country, and to go on a road in an October situation where everybody's new and you're still figuring all this shit out and it's really sloppy and you still beat Memphis and you do it with a guy in Seth Trimble that scores 33 points. And Cadeau's hitting threes, and they're going under ball screens, and he's like, that was last year, buddy. Watch this. I can shoot now.
I'm one of the guys that the practice report was right about. Like, I added a jumper.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I was pretty fired up for Carolina after last night, but maybe I'm overreacting.
I'd be very encouraged if I were Carolina. Like, it's not you're going to win the ACC again. I wouldn't paint yourself into the Final Four, but the freshmen played poorly, and Davis wasn't there, and you still won by, it was a 10-point game pretty much all the second half until they got a little bit sloppy late and turned it over. But like that means that Jalen Washington played well, Trimble played well. Mm-hmm. Like Lubin isn't some weakness in the paint. Tyson wasn't completely exposed as a defender. Like a lot of the things you're probably hoping to see out of that group went well, and without your top line ceiling raisers of Davis and the freshmen, you have to feel pretty good that that's your bedrock. If that's your floor performance, that's not bad. Now, I would whisper Memphis fired all 3 assistants like 3 weeks ago.
Right.
And so maybe they were a little sloppy and lazy and really, really bad on defense, if I'm being honest about it. But
they were. But
I think there's still a lot of encouraging takeaways for Tar Heel fans there for sure.
Yeah, I was worried that North Carolina might just be R.J. Davis and everybody else type team, and I guess that's the encouragement is that it's probably still going to, by the time like February rolls around, it might resemble that. And Hubert finds his new Iron 5, and
God. Can't stand that.
And they just hear Iron Fights the Iron 5 all over again. I don't know who the 5 be. Cadeau and Trimble and Trimble's starting now. He's got to start. Cadeau and Trimble, they got to run 3 guards out there. Washington's going to be the big man, and then it's just like, is it Withers or Tyson? I guess.
I'd go Tyson because he can shoot the lights
out.
He
didn't even shoot well last night, but yeah, he can shoot. Yeah, when he
I laugh at Withers because I feel like he's so confident, and I'm not sure why, but he is so confident. He had a drive late. The shot from the Bama game will always stand out.
Yeah,
but hey, he doesn't need to be that guy because they've clearly got a bunch of other dudes who can get buckets.
They're both going to play in the Mount Invitational, by the way, Memphis and Carolina.
That's right.
I booked my trip. I'm excited, Jim. I saw you at one Maui.
Extremely jealous.
I know. We got to get you back out there.
I would love to. Yes. There's nothing. Is it all all clear report size with like the fires and
as far as I know, that's what I've been told. But we'll. I mean, I don't know what I'm sure they're still putting the damage back together. But the tournament is going to schedule, and I'm so excited for it that Iowa State. Here are the teams. I'm going to read the bracket to everybody as a reminder. Memphis will play UConn in game 1. Intrigue, to say the least. The 2-time defending champions versus Penny Hardaway. But there are guys, if you follow college basketball, like Memphis has guys people know. Dane Danger and Tyrese Hunter and
Haggerty will be
Haggerty will be Haggerty was awesome for him last night, and you'll know him by the end of the year if you don't already. Michigan State plays Colorado. Colorado's going to be dog shit, right?
I don't know how Tom Izzo got that draw. Colorado's the clear 8 seed in this tournament, and Michigan State's like the 5.
I didn't realize how bad they were going to be till the bracket came out, and I got excited, and then I dug into all the teams, and I was like, oh, Colorado's not supposed to be good at all. But maybe they surprised. I don't know. Probably not. But
yeah, that's what Tad Boyle's better than you think he's going to be when they're bad, and he's worse than you think he's going to be when they're good.
We have Auburn, Iowa State as the third game,
which rules.
That's so good,
fantastic.
And Dayton, North Carolina is the final game, and then obviously the winners all play each other. Everybody knows how tournaments work, but so that means number 3, number 5, number 9, number 11.
You're just saying odd numbers right now.
Yeah, I guess I'm right. Yeah. all those teams are in there. I think Dayton's good.
Yeah, like 27th in Ken Pom.
And Michigan State. So Dayton, Michigan State, and Memphis are the 3 that are not ranked but are still pretty good, I think, or like interesting. It could make this interesting. I don't know. I'm so excited for this Maui Invitation.
Yeah, that's why. Just like, how did Izzo pull this off? Where Michigan State should be flipped with either Iowa State or Auburn. Like, you have 2 top 10 teams playing each other in the opening round. Why is that happening?
Well, maybe Dan Hurley pulled this off, and he gets to play.
That could be
the winner of Michigan State, Colorado, and he's like, "This is awesome.
Don't disrespect me. You put all the other top 10 teams on the other side of the bracket. It's the only way I'll tolerate it."
Talk to me about Auburn a little bit. Auburn, Bruce Pearl has always found a way to, like last year, I don't think people were super high on Auburn and Janai Broom and the rest of the gang. Like they ended up being a pretty good team. They lose to Yale in the first round of the tournament, but it was a season that exceeded expectations going in. I think people have caught up now to like we can't. Bruce Pearl's done a good job of what Dan Hurley has done, where it's like, no matter who I have or whatever. Matt Painter's earned that right as well, it seems like, where people are just like, you know what, fuck it. I'm done overthinking this. Bruce Pearl's Janai Broom back, done. You're going to what were they ranked, 9th? 11th? 11th. You're going to be ranked 11th. We're going to ask no more questions. Here's one question I'm going to ask you, though, because the last couple years, Auburn's guards have been a problem. Every time I watch Auburn, I'm like, I like the idea of this team. I think Janai Broom could be the best player in the country this year. Jabari Smith could have been the best player in the country a couple years. Like, they have unbelievable but then push comes to shove, and you count on the guards to not shit down their legs, and it just doesn't happen. Give me confidence that Auburn is going to be actually good and is not going to choke in the NCAA tournament.
All right. Point 1. Katie Johnson plays for George Mason now.
Okay.
Instead of Auburn. So that's where we're starting. We're starting with a guy that's like maybe the most erratic player in the entire country.
Really, maybe when I say Auburn guards, I just mean Katie Johnson. As it turns out. That could just be what I mean.
Could be part of it. And Aiden Holloway was underwhelming, little as a freshman last year. Couldn't shoot as expected. So they bring in 2 actual, we like to say, adults in the room, like J.P. Pegues from Furman. He's obviously had a big moment in the NCAA tournament already, the big shot to beat Virginia. He's a perfect Pearl guard because he's fantastic pull-up shooter, pretty good in ball screens. I think that's going to work well, a pairing with Broom, and Pearl just gives his guys like all freedom to pull up.
Yeah.
And we've seen that go poorly with certain players, but I think it's going to go very well with Pegues. Miles Kelly, a kind of under the radar addition from Georgia Tech, is another adult-ish in the room on the wing. And then I think Baker Mazzara is going to have a big year. And you mentioned the loss to Yale. And I think they beat Yale by 10 if Baker Mazzara doesn't get kicked out.
He doesn't get kicked out of the game.
3 minutes or whatever it was. He really became awesome for them on a per-minute basis. And when they played him bigger minutes loads, he was probably their second best player. I think this team is going to be fantastic. One of my hot takes I've been sitting on all offseason is that they're going to be slightly better than Bama, which I think no one agrees with. I'm picking Auburn to win the SEC, but
Ken Pom does.
Yeah. Well,
Auburn 3.
He's copying my homework.
I know.
You know, his computer's
Bama
copying
4.
my homework. Yeah. Bama's obviously loaded. They bring back the guys from the Final Four, but I think Auburn was better than them start to finish last year. And with Broom back, I mean, you put him up there with like Kalkbrenner and Dickinson, these fifth-year big men that come back, and we know they're going to anchor a good program. He might be the best of the bunch. I just would like to see him play more than 25 minutes a game. Maybe we get him up around 30. He's really good.
Where are we drawing the line then on national champion contenders in the preseason? Which again is, I'll just say this: like preseason has become impossible. I don't know if you feel this way, but it really has become. I can figure out teams I like Gonzaga and Iowa State are two teams that are more or less the same as they were last year. Like they feel pretty similar to what they were last year. I have a pretty good idea of what to expect from both of those teams. Kansas is sort of on the fence. Like they bring enough of their quarterback that I know, and I guess the transfers they're bringing in, I know. All these schools are hitting the transfer portal. A lot of these teams are going to throw starting fives out there that I know and I've seen play at other schools, but I haven't seen play together. And the preseason has become impossible to forecast like how all these pieces are going to fit, and it's extremely frustrating. It was already hard enough, but now it's become even harder to like. You just don't know. You just don't know like what like the example I used last week was when Kansas brings in Timberlake last year, and they're like he's going to be our shooter for us. And do I have that right? That it was him and Cam Spencer, and they were like we're going to take the Timberlake, and then Cam Spencer goes to UConn and.
Timberlake gets the yips. And
gets the you just don't know like what's going to happen with this sort of thing, and it becomes very difficult. Having said all that, enough with the preamble. Let's pretend like we know. Where are we drawing the line in terms of national title contenders in your eyes? Looking at the AP poll, which maybe there are some that like in the middle of the pack you'd flip guys around or whatever, but like Arizona at 10, Auburn at 11. You're high on Auburn. You think Auburn's in the mix? Do you think it's like the top 11? That's
I was gonna draw it at Auburn, and then there's one team outside of there that I would like shoehorn in as a national title contender. We can get to them in a second, but yeah, 1 through 11 there I think could all probably do it. I mean, basically every one of those teams has either, like you said, the Gonzaga, Iowa State. We know they were awesome last year. They're probably going to be a little bit better this year, so you've got incremental improvement. Or they have a star like Mark Sears, R.J. Davis. Baylor's pretty loaded. Maybe Arizona can't with Caleb Love, but that's a whole nother discussion.
Arizona's not – I don't trust Arizona to win 6 games, but I trust –
But I think Houston is the favorite personally. I'm a big fan of Houston going into this year. And Carolina, like if Trimble's that good and Washington is actually a legitimate starting center the way he looked against Memphis – what's that team really missing?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Do you want to hear my wild card?
Tell me the wild card.
They're not even ranked in the AP poll.
Hold on. Let me try to guess who it's going to be.
I bet it takes you one guess.
I don't know. Well, is it Illinois?
It's not Illinois. It's St. John's. That's
the second one? Okay.
Yeah. I think St. John's could have a top 5 defense. Like they're super long. They've got a shot blocker. They've got a terror on the ball in Richmond, and Davon Smith's kind of like that too. It sounds like Pitino's actually excited about them, whereas last year, every press conference was, I have to coach these guys. Can you believe it? It's like, well, you recruited them.
Is he excited about them, or does he want to coach Kentucky?
Well, he does seem like he'd prefer to coach Kentucky.
That was crazy. Can we just take a time? We'll talk about St. John's in a second. Can we just acknowledge?
That was insane.
I haven't done a show since then. I know at this point,
I was going to ask.
It's been a little while since that happened, but I haven't done my show since then. That I'm a Pitino guy. I when he left Louisville, I was mocking him as much as anyone else, and but I've been on record as saying I think he's pound for pound the best basketball coach maybe that's ever lived. I think that like Rick Pitino is just a fucking basketball genius, and I'm so happy that he's back in college basketball. But that was bizarre to say the least.
I thought it was like a Photoshop or something when I first saw like a photo on my Twitter timeline. I was like, what is happening here? I mean, if you're a St. John's player, were you like,
I know, dude. There's a way to go. Like I don't need it explained to me what he was thinking or why he did it. He's a Mark Pope guy. Mark Pope is taking over. I think when Mark Pope was hired at Kentucky, there were a lot of people both in Lexington and like nationally that are like, I mean, it's Kentucky. I feel like they could do better than Mark Pope. The people that know Mark Pope well are like, no, this guy's awesome and big energy guy and loves Kentucky, and like it makes a lot of sense. So Rick Pitino's like, I'm gonna help my guy out. I'm going to throw my weight behind his first Big Blue Madness and get him going and do what I can to make sure that he's set up for success. It all makes sense except for the fact that he's a head coach at a completely different pro. And it's not like he's a head coach at a tiny school or like a, like an FCS type level school where like an Iona, like where he was before, which is like
that would have felt different.
No disrespect to Iona, but like Iona and Kentucky are kind of playing different games. They might meet in the NCAA tournament, but they're operating on different levels, and Iona knows that. St. John's and Kentucky theoretically are operating on the same level.
Yeah.
And the head coach I thought it was crazy, and he could have like gone and appeared and just offered his support.
I'm here in the background. It's like, no, he was the main
quarter
character.
zip. He gave a speech to the crowd. He's doing interviews. He's speaking to the team the next day. It was crazy.
Yeah, and the fact that it was like the next day, that was as after practice had already started.
He's still there, I think. I think he's still there. I think he's like
he's not running St. John's
staff.
practices.
Yeah.
If it was in the summer and like, okay, we don't have workouts, our players are all back home, I'm going to go hang out at Kentucky for a couple of days. That feels so different than, hey guys, we have morning practice today and then night practice tomorrow because I got to do 36 hours of Lexington.
Right.
Like I couldn't believe it.
It was crazy. If there's one coach that could get away with it, it's Rick Pitino, just because, I mean, the man already coached at Kentucky and then ended up being a coach at Louisville. And
Kentucky fans welcome him back.
Yeah, the Kentucky fans, it's all very confusing. That guy finds a way to like skirt every sort of thing that we thought was a faux pas or whatever else. He's like, I'm Rick Pitino, I'm going to do what I want. And then we're all like, all right, I guess kind of. I don't know. I guess even all the shit that goes down at Louisville and everything else, at the end of the day, I do still like the guy. So it's like he everything he does, it seems crazy to me. And then enough time passes, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I still like him. I can't help myself. I still think
time heals all wounds, man. Time heals all Pitino wounds.
So I'm sure I'll look back on it in a year and be like, yeah, whatever. It was pretty funny that he was there, but like I couldn't believe what I was seeing when I was watching Big Blue Madness.
Wait, am I crazy that I think they could theoretically win a national title? Is that too much?
Who is St. John's?
Yeah, with Richmond, with the defense, I think their offense is
like I said, I think Rick Pitino is like they have the talent, and Rick Pitino has the coaching ability. Nobody's ever been able to get more out of their guys to me than Rick Pitino through the years. Like he's just been, and when you give him talent, he's unbelievable.
I couldn't believe they weren't ranked for that reason. Where like a human looking at it is like Rick Pitino talent. Honorable mention.
Right.
Like that just seems like the logical in a human poll. Like I get why they're low in Ken Palm. That's not, I'm not going to whine about that, but I figured the human bias would have them. Actually, they're 19th in Ken Palm. They're higher per computers. I would never have expected humans to be lower on Pitino than computers.
Which makes that's what always made Pitino getting fired at Louisville or getting caught up in a recruiting scandal thing so funny to me, was that he had all of his success with like unheralded guys. He wasn't landing 5 stars like crazy. And then he got Brian Bowen, and then he did a radio interview, and he's like, that was the easiest recruitment of my life. I don't know how that – and ultimately it was a 5-star that took him down when he won a national title with like Russ Smith and Peyton Siva and like Luke Hancock and like these dudes that were diamonds in the rough that he found. And then he lands like 1 5-star. I know he had others, but it really felt like the first time he started like dabbling and actually getting – the Duke and Kentucky type caliber recruits, he's like the only one that got in trouble.
Shouldn't do that. How dare you? Stick to what you know. Yeah.
No, I'm with you on that. I think I agree. I'm trying to think of where I would draw the line. Arizona, I would do. I don't know about Auburn and Arizona. I'm trying to think of who else in the mix.
I feel so confident that. Sorry to the fans of these teams, but like we get to 13, 14, 15, like Texas A&M is not going to win a national title this year.
I don't think Tennessee. I think Tennessee feels a little overrated to me. I think I like Rick Barnes, and if we're doing like the whole trust the coach and he knows what he's doing type thing, it's like it's nothing against him and his program, and he's sort of figured some stuff out, but I don't think Zakai Siegler is good enough for you to be like, the guy's Zakai Ziegler.
Yeah, he doesn't elevate them like Connect did.
Okay, so
unless someone comes out of the woodwork and apparently out of practice. Milicic has been really good. This big guy Igor, but I don't think they're going to be in that tier.
They're taking a big step back as a program this year, I think. Baylor's interesting to me. I think they're national title good, but for a team that won a national title a couple years ago and did it so convincingly against a team that was undefeated in the national championship and just beat the hell out of them. I don't want to say they've fallen off as a program, but I think they've taken a step back in national relevance, where I think people forget about Baylor, and I think this could be a year where they reannounce. They've had good teams. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I haven't trusted the defense. I haven't trusted the culture of toughness that they had, because that's the way they won their national title was just being some fucking dogs on defense. And then they had guys, your Jared Butlers that could shoot, and Cryer was on the Baylor team, right?
Yeah, I think he's on the bench.
They had shooters as well, but their DNA was the defense, and I don't think they've had that the last few years. And I'm still in wait and see mode with that part of it, but I am waiting for the Baylor resurgence, the reminder that they are in fact one of the premier programs in the country, and they start ranked 8th in the country in the preseason poll, but. Yeah, they're a team that I'm gonna have my eye on, because the freshman kid Edgecombe,
he's so good.
So good.
Yeah, I love that guy. Some of the stuff he did with the Bahamas in the offseason, where he was playing with Ayton and Buddy Hield, and it was he's as good as them.
Yeah, he's gonna be nasty. I like Jeremy Roach. I thought he was good at Duke, and he's never as good as what I think he was supposed to be. But I think he's a really good college basketball player. So
Drew, the one thing I think that's maybe hurt him, and we talked about it a little with UConn, is he keeps getting assistants picked away.
Right.
Tang, I think, was a big one to lose, especially around the defensive side of the ball, where the last 2 years they've been bad, and Kansas State's been good defensively, and you start to think maybe Tang had a lot to do with why they were so good on that end of the court. And then this offseason they lose Jacobs. John Jacobs went to Florida Atlantic, placed Dusty May.
Mm-hmm.
He is reputationally the offensive guru or one of the masterminds behind the offense. And so does that take a step back, even though they are clearly loaded with talent?
So he's lost his offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator from the national title team.
Yeah, in the last couple of years. There's another assistant who left recently I'm forgetting, so I'm sure Baylor fans will remind me and yell at me. But the problem is I adore the roster. Rob Wright, this freshman point guard that's coming in, is the perfect, he was just too small. That's why he's only rated 20th. He should really be a top 10 recruit. So you pair him with Edgecombe, with Roach, with Jaden Nunn back. I don't know if Omir's going to solve the defensive issues in the paint, but I know he's good at basketball.
He's
So you have a bunch of guys that, it can fill the stat sheet, they can score as long as they get some stops. I think they fit right there as an 8.
Yeah, Omir defensively, we'll see, but the Final Four Miami team, there were many times where I was like, Norchad Omir might be their best player. And I can't forget that.
Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller. It's they might.
Nigel Pack, they were. But Omir was the straw that stirred the drink. We still using that?
He's the carpet that tied the room together.
Tied the room together.
Yeah.
Is straw that stirs the drink a compliment?
Yeah, that's the guy he's the initiator, right?
I think so, but I don't know if that's a when you call a quarterback a game manager, that's always not a compliment.
Yeah.
But the only guys they ever say that about are guys that are winning football games. You know what I mean?
It's always I don't know how you're winning, but you
are winning. So
this is what you become.
But it's every time someone uses it, they're obviously using it as an insult. And I feel like straw that stirs the drink is, but that doesn't mean you're just, I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying.
You might not be the best player, but you're one that is important for setting the tone.
What I'm trying to say is Norchad Omir, I know it seems crazy, but there were times where I watched him and I'm like, honestly, if there's one guy on this Miami team that they can't afford to lose, it might be him because of his versatility and all of that. And it was a team that with Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller and Nigel Pack and guys that are quote unquote more talented than him. And yet I couldn't forget him. So Baylor's super interesting to me for that reason. What else? Duke. We haven't talked about Duke. We haven't talked about Cooper Flagg.
Yep.
I could not be more in on the hype around a kid. I could not be more in on not just the idea that he's going to be the number one pick, but I said this a couple months ago, and it's only gotten heightened since then, that I think it's a Zion type season incoming where when I don't know what to talk about on the show, I'm just going to talk about what Cooper Flagg did last night and how awesome it looked. And I think, frankly, Duke's season hinges on if he is as awesome as he is billed to be, they could very easily win a national title. And if he's not and he just ends up being pretty good, they might be in some trouble. Relying on a freshman to that level is not always a fun spot to be in for a college basketball team, but he seems I have yet to see a single thing that gives me pause on him being anything short of miraculously good. Is that good? Was that a good quote that we could
yeah.
I've not seen anything
lock that one in.
Miraculously good. Like he's just every clip like he can score from every level. He's got the attitude, he's got the competitive drive, he's got the like the skill set's unreal. He can put the ball on the deck, he's got the size. Am I wrong in this?
No, I don't.
I think
so.
He's the best player in the country, and if he's not preseason first team All-American, that seems crazy to me.
Yeah, I've ranked him top 5. We did a player list. I think I had him second, maybe. He's ridiculous. I think defense is where he's like head and shoulders above a lot of people, a lot of prospects coming out at his age. I mean, he's still young for a freshman because he's a reclass, but he's outrageous on that end. And then like you see so many clips of the offense. It looks good in practice. It looks good in the Team USA scrimmages and stuff. Like whether those, the NBA guys are going all out or not, like he looked fine there. It wasn't like, there's this scrawny 17-year-old that they're trying to make it happen there. And no, he looked like he belonged. And I think it's nice that they're not going to have to bank on him for scoring. Like he doesn't have to score 20 a game for them to be elite. If he puts up 16 and 7 with fantastic defense, they're going to get points from Proctor, from Foster, from some of the transfers, from Knipple, who's apparently an absolute monster. I'm sure you saw the Jonathan Gimoni hype machine. I hesitate because that hype machine 2 years ago was Tyrese Proctor's the best freshman on Duke, and then it was very obviously Filipowski. So I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on it. But
Mason Gillis is going to have like at least one, I think probably 3 big games for them.
Yeah,
I think
played in big games.
I think Mason Gillis is going to have. I'm going to predict that right now. There's going to be multiple games this season where Mason Gillis plays like 13 minutes and hits 3 or 4 threes.
just gets the camera crowd going.
Yeah.
And I mean, he shot like 50% from 3 last year, and people are like, "Well, he had Zach Edey. He was open all the time." He's going to be open a lot, playing with Cooper Flagg and Proctor and Foster and all them. Like he's never going to be the number 1 option on the scouting report. Yeah.
No, I'm all in on the Cooper Flagg hype because the not to make everything about Ohio State football, but the analogy I would use is Jeremiah Smith, this wide receiver on Ohio State. He's a freak.
He's 17 too, right? Or
17. Yeah. So he's 18.
He's 18.
Ryan Williams is the one on Bama, 17. Bama. But all off season coming out of Columbus, everything I would read about Ohio State football was on a season when they had just lost Marvin Harrison Jr., who was. This run of Ohio State receivers, he was the cream of the crop. He's better than all of them. They just lose Marvin Harrison Jr., and this new kid, Jeremiah Smith, comes in. And everybody that was going to practice and everybody that was at the facility was just talking about this kid is going to be the best receiver Ohio State has ever seen. And I kept waiting all summer and all as we got into the fall practices and right up to the very first game, I kept waiting for anybody, just one voice to push back and be like, we're putting a little too much on this kid too fast, right? And even as the games have been going on, you see these guys that are typically pretty measured with their takes and all that sort of thing. Every time they talk about Jeremiah Smith, like he could be playing on Sundays right now. If I was doing a draft, I might consider him taking him 1 right now. Like you're just saying all this crazy shit that in my mind, when you say this about guys, there's always a segment of people that are like, we're putting way too much on him. I need to see him do it against this sort of competition. There's always a little bit of a pushback. And the whole reason of talking about Jeremiah Smith is that all the people that are hyping him up, as it turns out, were exactly correct. Like he is that good. Cooper Flagg has the exact same amount of hype to me. We're like, if he wasn't as good as he is made out to be, there would be some voice that was at the USA thing that was like, oh, he's good, man. Now let's relax. Let's remember he is an 18-year-old and there's 7. He's 17.
I think he's 17.
He's 17. He's a young kid. He's got but he's showing a lot of like. There's a way to not shit on him, but also kind of put the messaging out there that like it's a work in progress and like he's got a little things to work on or whatever. I've not seen any of it. No. I've not seen any of it at all. Every single thing about Cooper Flagg is like, goddamn.
Yeah, and like,
he's good.
In every scenario he's performed, he's been fantastic. Like any ABCD camp, or that's not even a thing anymore, is it? But like Nike Hoop Summit.
I know
it's great.
Yeah.
No, I show my age.
You could convince me you're still going on just 'cause,
but like at Montverde, his team was undefeated. They were loaded. He had great teammates, but he was the best player in the team. Anybody who watched was like, that's the best player for the best team in high school basketball. When he didn't play with those guys, he was playing with Maine United and Peach Jam. He put like 32, 15, 6 blocks a game. It's like, okay, yeah, I see it as the star, as the complimentary like leader of great teammates, leader of bad teammates. He's been good in every setting. I see no reason why he will be.
This is amazing. I'm going to say this too. I think this is a legacy year for John Shire insofar as if I think Cooper Flagg's going to be so good that we'll look back on how far he goes in the tournament, and if they don't, they have to make at least a Sweet 16. I'm trying to think of like what, like in the same way that Rick Barnes, it's like
Durant.
Yeah, Barnes Durant. Rick Barnes had Kevin Durant and lost by 20 almost in the second round, I think.
Yeah.
I forget how much they lost by. Let me pull that up.
Was it to the Mayo team? Is that
it was to USC.
I think it was.
I don't know if Mayo was there yet. I think it was Taj.
No, it wasn't 2006.
Taj on that team?
That's so wrong. Was it 2007? It was 2007.
Yeah, it was 2007. And I think Mayo was the next year.
You're right.
Texas,
Nick Young, Taj Gibson. Gabe Pruitt. What are they?
Gabe Pruitt. Yeah. What did they lose by?
10. No, wait, sorry. 19.
19, yeah.
Yeah.
I was close. In the same way that's something that if you don't like Rick Barnes, you never stop talking about how he had DJ Augustine and Kevin Durant and lost by 20 in the second round.
Yeah.
I feel like that's how good Cooper Flagg's going to be. And Shire can't fuck this up.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the Zion Coach K team, like you knew he was that good. It's like this is a kind of a disappointment if they don't make the Final Four, and then Izzo, Cassius Winston, Kenny Goins make some crazy shot to beat them in the Elite Eight, and it felt like an underwhelming disappointment because he was that good, and there's a chance Flagg is that good.
I'm fired up. The Mark Titus Show is brought to you by Jack Black. Jack Black just came out with 4 new scents of their #1 deodorant, Pit Boss. Their deodorant is the best at controlling odor and wetness no matter what I'm doing, and now I can have my cleanser, lotion, and antiperspirant all in my favorite scent, which is a total game changer. Jack Black's original Pit Boss deodorant is a top seller, and now you can get the same reliable odor and wetness protection in 4 new masculine scents. Big Sur offers a refreshing aroma that mixes marine, accord, and amber. Blue Midnight features adventurous notes of black pepper and lavender. Jack Zen presents a grounding blend of bamboo and violet. I'm a Big Sur guy. They sent me all the different samples, but I was using Jack Black before they came on as a sponsor, so I'm excited about this. But the Big Sur is unreal. And this point about you get all your scents lined up. This is important, and this is something I wish I knew way earlier in life, is that you think you're smelling good because you're using a bunch of different products that smell different, but they're all smelling good in their own ways. When you put them together, it's confusing and it doesn't really work. You need to stick to one scent. And thankfully, Jack Black has found a way to let you have your lotions, your cleansers, all of it. One favorite scent. You find your scent you like, and that's what you smell like, and you move forward with your day. Jack Black was founded over 20 years ago with the goal of offering men's body care products that were just as effective as women's body care products. Their commitment to superior skincare has made Jack Black, according to Circana, the #1 men's body care brand by total dollar sales. If you want simple, effective products that do what they say they're going to do, you need Jack Black. Head to getjackblack.com/Titus and use code Titus for 10% off of your order and free shipping. Once again, it is getjackblack.com/Titus, Titus, for 10% off of your order plus free shipping. And make sure you use promo code Titus. It is my name right there, Titus, so they know I sent you. Jack Black. Getjackblack.com. Gonzaga, Iowa State are 2 teams that are bring back everybody type teams. That's the way you. And then if you're condensing it down to one bullet point, you're like, they were good last year, they bring back everybody.
Yeah, that's basically Ohio State changes the front, or Iowa State changes the front court, but their guards are fantastic.
The guards and love.
Gonzaga just drops the firecracker into the equation of Caleb Battle, where this kind of fiery wing that can get his own bucket that they clearly did not have last year.
Yeah.
And maybe he's the one that kind of raises the ceiling from 5 seed they were last year, made Sweet 16 to top 6 team.
They ended up better. They started real slow. I don't need to remind you, but they were. I remember having the conversations like they might miss the tournament, and then they came on strong. So I think that's the excitement around Gonzaga, and explains their number 6 ranking as they ended the season pretty strongly, even though I think they lost to St. Mary's a couple times down the stretch. But beat Kansas in the second round.
Obliterated.
Kansas, that was the second round. Yeah, that wasn't the Sweet 16. That was the second round. Yeah, 5-4 game.
Can we didn't fully hit Kansas. I want to ask.
We didn't. Well, let's talk about Kansas. They're the number one team. We did not talk about them, and
You mentioned that it's like, oh, does it feel like deja vu with last year? And the thing that was so cool about them last year, and what I think made them scary, was they had 3 unreal defenders with Adams, with Harris, and with McCullough. McCullough gets hurt. The defense gets leaky. Dickinson's lack of foot speed gets a little more exposed. I don't think A.J. Storr fixes that.
I know.
I mean, he adds some offense, but I saw like a quote from Media Day that Bill Self said, like, Zeke Mayo's he's a starter. Like, I think
he's going to start over Storr.
It seemed like maybe just a kick in the pants to Storr.
Yeah.
That would be how I would perceive it, but I don't think they're going to have the same kind of defense, even with Harris and Adams back. And can the offense explode enough to be the number one team in the country? I don't know.
I know. The Kansas thing is number one, McCullough was their best player, and I said this on a show not too long ago, but Hunter Dickinson won all the awards, and McCullough was unbelievable defensively. He carried them offensively. I don't understand how he wasn't.
Didn't play.
Why was he not an All-American? I don't understand. I don't understand why Hunter got all the votes for all the awards, but whatever. What ruined them last year was they had 4 players, and Furphy had his moments when he came on late in the season. I mean, not late in games, but he late in the season he kind of emerged as like starter number 4.5 for them, and like he would have stretches or he looked like the guy they were hoping he would be, but they just didn't have any depth. And to me, the one thing that I feel confident about with Kansas this year is that the guys they brought in, they basically, with Rylan Griffin and A.J. Storr and Zeke Mayo, you don't need all 3 of them to hit in the way that they kind of needed. They needed Furphy and Timberlake to hit, and when they didn't, and then McCullough gets hurt, and then Hunter was banged up throughout the year and had the shoulder thing, they were just depleted. And I don't even think, even if they had all their guys, I don't even know how good they actually would have been. So that's the thing to me is like I think some combination of those 3 guys they're bringing in will make up for McCullough, and they'll be able to like piece it together. But what promises were made to A.J. Storr when he put pen to paper to take the bag to go to Kansas, and what promises are made to Rylan Griffin and all that sort of thing, and what NIL deals and who that sort of shit is something that we need to monitor a little more. But I think their depth is going to be better. I trust their offense a little more. You're right though, the defense. Hunter, I'm a broken record. I talk about Hunter way too much on the show, but like he's, for a guy who's AP first team All-American and all that sort of thing, like for him to be a liability defensively, and ball screens and a guy that other teams are purposely trying to attack, it's kind of like it's a thing you can't ignore when you're talking about Kansas. It's like you can't. I can't take a team super seriously as a national title contender if your best player, I don't want to say is unplayable, but there are stretches where it's like I don't know if I want him out there.
Yeah, he gets picked on.
Yeah, he gets picked. Like that's crazy to say that. Like we're the number one team in the country. We have a guy who's a first team All-American, and that's the guy that gets picked on.
Yeah, you're splitting hairs when you're talking about number one in the country. Like maybe they're number 5. So it's not like, man, with Hunter Dickinson, Kansas can never make a Sweet 16 or something. Like, of course they can. But I think it's a actual flaw that is going to come up and, to me, prevent them from being number one. Now, there's few coaches I would trust more than Self to put it all together. Like you said, with the new options they had, the guys they brought in, there's going to be more offensive pop. Like McCullough, for all his, talents and stuff, was not like a great shooter, not an awesome one-on-one scorer. Now they've got a little bit more of that on the roster. But I think there's just going to be some ups and downs with them. And to your point, like even with McCullough, they weren't in the top 10 of KenPom from December on. Like
really,
even with all through January, February, they're like 15th. Like they weren't playing like a top 10 team analytically, and that's despite being like 15-2. They were 18th. So I think it's a little farther of a leap from where they were last year to get from 25th or even just 15th in KenPom to number one with the guys they got. I'm a Houston man.
I like their depth more and that's what gives me confidence, is that I thought, of course, the defense, there were problems, and the offense would be clunky at times, and there were X's and O's, very obvious X's and O's problems. But I think if I had to pick one thing to just boil down to what Kansas's biggest problem was last year, I would just say depth. I would say the depth was the issue, and they just didn't have enough horses to tinker with line. Like you're stuck when you're watching their offense, and it is clunky, and they don't flow well together at all. And you're like, I wish we could fix this, but where are we going to turn on the bench to? We don't have any other options.
At some point, they had to have El Marco Jackson or Timberlake on the court.
Right.
Those were one of the five, no matter what.
And I think this year, I still have like the X's and O's types questions of what is their defensive stopper lineup going to look like? What is it going to look like when they want to play small ball? What is it going to look like? Like, I still want to see what all that will look like, but I trust that they have more options to figure that out, and that's what gives me confidence in Kansas this year. But
bites at the apple.
But I think them being number one is good for the sport. I think Bosco is trying to convince me that Bama should be one and having some new blood, but I think I ultimately landed on having a familiar face in Kansas, and it sucks, and people hate it, and they're like, this is ridiculous to just have the same blue bloods over and over and all that, but that's what you want. You want the familiarity. And if you want to sell it to a national audience too, to just be like Hunter Dickinson, DeJuan Harris, KJ Adams, Bill Self, Kansas number one. And they're like, all right, well, those are names I know.
I've heard of that. Yeah, they're all back.
And even if your immediate reaction when you hear that is like, no, they're not. That's good. That's good that we have something to talk about. You know what I mean? So I'm fine with that. I don't think Bama wants to be one anyway. I think Bama should just fly under the radar as much as they can.
Well, bulletin board material there for Nate Oates.
They have so much depth, and they have.
I always say basketball was a 13-player sport, like it was 13 on 13, they would be number one by leaps and bounds. Yeah. It's crazy. They could have a 13th man that's like a top 60 recruit.
Only one ball.
Only one ball.
Only one ball. We'll see. We'll see.
It helps they play fast. So like the one ball thing, true. you can rotate more players, you get more shots. If that team played slow, I have no idea how you'd make it work. But Oates is too smart to do that.
I think the top three is perfect for the preseason AP poll. I think having a blue blood in Kansas that is far from a perfect team, but has. I mean, Hunter's a name. Hunter's a name people know, and having him be the face of the team, and then be number one again after being number one last year, I think that's just a good story, and I think that's good for the sport, even if people don't think they're the number one team. I think having Bama, who's probably actually the number one team, being two is good, and then having the two-time defending national champion being three, where they're like, what the fuck, man? We won the last two titles. I think it's all perfect because it's good for discussion. It's good for selling it to the public. And
two of the top three
people got it right.
Two of the three from last year's Final Four. Like that's so identifiable. Like Bama having been back there, and there were some moments in that game versus UConn, like the Grant Nelson dunk. People are going to remember that.
Remember NC State making the Final Four last year? Remember that?
Yeah. Can I applaud the AP poll for not just like ranking NC State because they went to the Final Four. We have to. It's like when Loyola went there. It's like we have to rank them top 20. Like people have learned, and I'm impressed. There's a lot of growth in the AP voters to not have NC State just camping in the top 25 simply because they made the Final Four.
Yeah, you're right about that. That's
they didn't get a single vote. I'm looking at that's impressive. I'm surprised.
I didn't actually look at the bottom of the
High Point.
High Point got a vote
over who they aren't loaded, but my goodness, I'm surprised they got one over NC State.
Oh, we got Ohio State, Michigan State, and Michigan all right next to each other. Oregon, Illinois. How many Big Ten teams receive votes? One, or in the others receiving votes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess just those 5.
But then there's
6.
Like between 14 and 25. There's another 5 of them.
8. It's crazy. Big Ten's gonna be nuts. All right. Anything else you got that you want to get off your chest? What, Cody? You got something, Cody? Cody never has any.
Yes, let's go.
UConn news.
No shit?
4-star Eric Ryby.
Yeah.
Second center in the class, 2025. 23 overall, top 100. Just committed to UConn.
Number one center in the. Is he reclassing? Can he play this year?
No.
So
help is on the way.
Do you think Dan Hurley is mad that he's not number one in his class? Yeah. He's the number 2 center. Are you kidding me? It's UConn.
He's a 7-footer.
He does seem very Hurley
He seemed
If it's like they asked him like
clinging.
how he feels, and he said like I'm fucking excited to be. I think he said I'm excited to be a fucking husky.
So really, the
most
Yeah,
generic interview question. He found a way to swear. That is a Hurley man. I like that.
I saw our mutual friend Trilly Donovan, who does great work. Everybody thinks I'm Trilly.
You might be.
I might be.
Yeah.
How do I get them to stop thinking that? Or maybe I want them to continue to think that.
I mean, truly, the only way to convince them you're not is to unmask the real Trilly, and I don't know if that'll ever happen.
Huh.
We work with Trilly in our burner Discord, where I believe he put out that Mr. Reeby was headed to.
That's what I was going to say. I saw that
it's a plug for joining it.
He hinted at this. Yeah.
But yeah, like we work with him and we had to sign NDAs. I have no idea who he is. And
Oh,
I'm
really?
like a business partner with him. And
I do know who he is, but I'm
also
not allowed to say.
That's now we're gonna press you forward after we go off the air here.
I do know he or she.
Good.
It could be she.
Yeah. There you go.
It's not.
All right, we have eliminated half the world's population.
It's a he for sure.
More than
yeah. I like Trilly. I like I did the AMA on the Discord.
Yeah, people loved it.
We had a good time.
People were begging to get you in there. They were excited to interact with you, and then there was just like a steady stream of people only saying family. So I don't know how you found any questions.
I was
just moving constantly.
I was worried I was gonna have to like basically turn into one of you guys on the 3-man weave, and they're gonna be like, "What do you think of Towson's backcourt depth this year?" And I was gonna be like, "Fuck, dude, I don't know."
No,
I don't
they
know.
would not have given.
And then every question was just like, "What's Bill Simmons like?" and what's shit like that.
I think
I was like, "Yes, thank you. These are easy. I can handle these."
We should. I'm not saying we have to talk about them, but I think we should take a bow for not going this whole AP poll breakdown. We didn't mention Arkansas or Calipari one time.
I'm proud of us.
One single time. Yeah.
I'm proud of us.
It's almost like we challenge ourselves to do it beforehand.
I'm proud of us. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say the same thing I've been saying this whole time. Now that John Calipari has Arkansas's money and he can get any player he wants to play for him, look out, because he can amass any amount of talent, Jim. Can you imagine John Calipari having all the talent in the world? That's going to look like?
Sounds unrealistic.
That's going to be crazy.
Yeah. So you better get him now situation.
You better get him now, because once John Calipari starts getting, just imagine getting, and this could happen. Imagine John Calipari getting every 5-star, like all the top 5 stars, like a bunch of, like he throws like 5 guys out that are going to play in the NBA someday.
You think he could have a top 2 recruiting class in the country for 8 straight years? That
I think that's possible at Arkansas. I think he could do that. Look out, college basketball. I don't think I'll accept it. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't think I'll accept it. I think John Calipari is just not the coach at Arkansas, and he never will be.
It'll be cognitive dissonance, like when they go to Kentucky and be like, just switch benches.
Yeah, like what do we do?
Coach on the home side.
One topic that did come up on the show, and then we can be done after this. I don't know why I said that, but I just
am I rushing out? Am I begging to get out? It's fine.
But
I'm giving that vibe.
One thing that did come up on the show that I want to talk to you about is Kentucky players going back to Arkansas practice. Was it PJ Washington? Was he the one that who was the guy that Arkansas practice?
So I guess is this like a case of you played for the player or played for the coach, not the school?
It was PJ Washington.
Kind of
PJ Washington visited Arkansas practice wearing Arkansas gear.
Oh, he wore Arkansas gear?
That's what I wanted to bring up to you. This is Rick Pitino. Maybe it's just something about Kentucky. This is Rick Pitino adjacent type stuff where PJ Washington is going to visit Cal at Arkansas and he's wearing Arkansas shit. Do you anticipate this happening more? Because I do. I don't think when they play Kentucky you're going to see like John Wall wearing Arkansas stuff behind the Arkansas bench against Kentucky, but I do think at some point this season, in fact, I'll say multiple times this season, we will be watching Arkansas games, and they'll cut to behind the bench, and it'll be a NBA player, current or former, wearing something Arkansas supporting John Calipari, and I think that's going to be crazy, and I think that's going to be a discussion point throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at their schedule where it's like, oh, do they play at Villanova and Tyrese Maxey will be behind the bench? Like you can just pick out which games guys will be at. With neutral site against Baylor, where's that game? In Dallas. Is there any, I'm trying to think if there's any Dallas guys. I don't know if there are any Mavericks that are Kentucky Wildcats, but regardless,
PJ Washington.
Oh, so he'll be back.
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, PJ Washington.
All right.
I was like,
so that should have.
I mean, are we talking other than PJ Washington?
Yeah. No, of course that's definitely going to happen. It's going to feel weird every time to me. Would those guys also be welcome back behind Mark Pope's bench?
Yeah, I don't know. This is what I guess I'm saying to the state of Kentucky is you got to draw a line at some point. I don't if
they're either your guys or they're not.
They're either your guys or they're Cal's guys.
They Cal's kids or they your guys.
That's what I don't know. It's very confusing. It's very confusing.
This is the dilemma you're going to have to help solve throughout the season. It's a mission of the.
I don't think it'd be. I don't think it'd be as big of a deal if Arkansas wasn't a conference rival. That's the part that's crazy to me.
Yep.
Because like I'll go to Butler games and support that, but like it's.
I guess.
But if Butler played, I already told Dad that like if there's ever a scenario where you're playing Ohio State, I'm not cheering for Butler. You know that. Yeah, like that's not gonna happen. So hopefully that's how the Kentucky guys feel, but we'll see. It just feels weird when it's a conference rival, but I guess we just live in a. What are conference rivals anymore with conference realignment? Maybe there's.
Loyalty's dead, man. Loyalty's dead.
Loyalty's dead. You got all these dudes transferring to Aiden Holloway and your Roddy Gales and.
Yeah, going to the actual arch rival. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kobe, there's a guy went from UCLA or USC to UCLA, and his last name's escaping me.
Johnson?
Bingo.
Kobe Johnson.
Look at you know ball more than I do. Come on.
I think I broke the news on my Discord, by the way, when that happened.
That's right.
Or is it my Discord? I don't know. I don't know. Anything to plug before we get out of here?
Yeah, join the Discord. We've got previews of all 364 teams up on there. It's called The Burner. You can find it on our Twitter, 3MW_CBB. Written stuff. You've got Kevin Sweeney and Eric Fawcett doing a film room show. And, of course, you've got all the Trilly scoops. We're doing AMAs. We've got Johnny Fanta tonight. So stepping into your shoes.
All right.
For the week.
Something I'm going to say that I'm not going to say. I'm going to say.
What a teaser.
I'm not going to say. I'm going to say. Are we worried? I'm not going to say.
Okay.
I can't say it. I can't say. I'm going to say it.
I'm afraid of what you're going to say.
I love Fanta. You know that.
I hope you're not.
I know. I know. Do we think Fanta is because these Browns rants he's going on are legendary. They're unbelievable. I'm worried Fanta is blowing his load too soon. Like I need college basketball Fanta is what I'm telling you.
Yes,
Jim.
And he's got an ALCS team that he's got an ALCS team into.
And I was scared to say it because John Fanta is 100% approval rating, and I don't want this to come across as me criticizing John Fanta in any way, shape, or form. It's more like unsolicited advice. Not even that. It's just more. It's a fear. I'm worried. I'm worried our boy's going to get burnt out. I'm worried by the time the Big East tournament rolls around, John Fanta's out of gas because he spent his entire fall making selfie videos in his backyard bitching about Deshaun Watson and the Browns. And I liked it at first, but I'm like, John, let's keep our eye on the ball here.
Exactly. We might have to crowdfund like getting him some Red Bull or some Stella Blue constantly throughout the month of March.
I've never seen John Fanta come close to running out of energy, but I don't want to see it is the point. Like right. So a lot of people will hear me say that and they'll be like, "Come on, dude, we're talking about Fanta. We don't have to worry about that with him." But I'm saying we've never seen him.
Can you imagine how shattering it would be?
Yes, exactly. I don't want to see Superman not be able to fly, and I'm worried that by the time March rolls around and it's the Big East tournament, Madison Square Garden, and Fanta's just kind of like, I need a vacation, man.
I hope Fanta bullying me into more drinks on Bourbon Street will always stand out after like all the work he's doing all season. He's always got it. I have faith in you, John.
If Fanta brings the heat all season after his ALCS Guardians run and the Browns rants that he's doing every single week, I thought it was just going to be a one-time thing. I thought it was going to be like
now there's expectations.
I'm ticked off.
Yeah,
and then that was going to be it. Now he's like, dude, I got to do this every week. If he still brings the heat at the Big East tournament in the Final Four this year, certified legend. I mean, he kind of already is, but
he'll be at that point deserves to sleep in May. He'll have taken John's crown as the guy who deserves to sleep in May.
Yeah, and I'm just a little worried. That's all. I just don't want to. I don't want to see him that way. So I'm hoping he's still finding a way to get his shut eye and get ready for the season. This was fun, Jim, as it always is. It's a good time. I'm ready to. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks, but I'm ready to get this thing underway.
Yeah.
Baylor Gonzaga to open the season's big time.
Less than 3 weeks, man.
That's big time.
It's right around the corner. Oh, and did you see the time and the announcement of that? It's like after Monday Night Football. Tips off at 10:30 Central, I think.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, because they didn't want to go against Monday Night Football.
That's great. We need this. We need more of this in college basketball. Be smart about it. Quit trying to quit assuming that everyone's just going to find it. They're not. Like, be smart about when these games are being played. And that's going to be huge. Maui's going to be awesome too, and
Joe Buck kicking it to Baylor Gonzaga is going to be fantastic.
It's right out right on ESPN.
I think so. That's why they waited, because they didn't want to.
That's
they've
incredible.
Got the Manning cast on ESPN2. They're like, well, we'll just make it a late night game.
That's incredible. All right, Jim Root, go follow 3-Man Weave guys, all that sort of thing. We're gonna have you. I know I say it all the time, but every time you come on here, I'm like, can't wait to have Jim back on. So we'll get the games underway, and we'll have Jim back on shortly. Thank you, Jim.